A guy named Juan came for a photo shoot for his project. After the shoot, as he's about to leave, he sees a girl stepping out of a car and moving a lizard off the road. The girl's name is Shiao. The lizard was about to get crushed under the car, so Shiao was helping it out. Juan appreciates what she's doing. Today is Xiao's birthday, and she's on her way to her grandfather's house with her parents. Suddenly, a truck hits Xiao's car while they're driving. Juan is right behind them and rushes to help, but when he tries to open the door, he realizes it's locked. He asks the truck driver for help, but instead, the truck driver pushes him aside, knocking him into a ditch. As he falls, a broken tree branch pierces Juan's heart. Inside the car, Xiao is crying out for help, but Juan is in no condition to help her. Even though he's in pain, he tries to hold her hand to comfort her, but then he loses consciousness. 10 years have passed since the accident. Xiao now works at a cafe, but since it's going out of business, everything is free today. A little while later, Juan comes to the cafe to buy something. The big question is, how did these two survive such a huge accident? Well, we'll find out as the story unfolds. Xiao tells him that everything is free today, but Juan doesn't pay attention to what she says and ends up paying for his order. Xiao runs outside to return the money, but by the time she gets there, Juan has already left. Now, we switch to an architecture designing company. Juan is the CEO there. After work, he goes to a cemetery to buy a plot for his own grave. The cemetery manager tells him, "We don't sell plots to the living. Bring a death certificate first, then we'll sell you a plot." Juan replies, "Your plots don't look that great. I'll design my own grave and send the death certificate soon." Later that night, Juan meets a man for a business deal, but the man turns out to be a fraud. He starts flirting with Juan's secretary instead of talking business. He gets her drunk with a bunch of drinks. Watching this, Juan gets really upset. So, he starts drinking heavily himself, and soon his heart rate increases, and he gets an electric shock. When he shakes hands with the guy, the shock knocks him out cold. On the other hand, Xiao has started driving for an Uber company. She's picking up Juan's friend from a hotel. When Xiao offers to give them a ride in her taxi, Juan's friend says, "Let Juan get in your taxi." Xiao holds Juan's hand, but he's surprised because she doesn't feel the shock. As they drive, they suddenly spot a truck, and Xiao panics and pulls over to the side of the road. After calming down, she apologizes to Juan. She explains that after the accident from her childhood, she still gets terrified when she sees trucks. Without saying much else, Xiao drops Juan off at his house. At home, Juan lies down in a machine to recharge himself. That's when we see Juan's heart is actually made of metal. After the accident, doctors had to replace his heart with a mechanical one to save him. The doctors had warned him to avoid intense exercise, anger, and drinking because if his heart rate goes too high, another accident could happen. Because of this, Juan hasn't been in a relationship, and he's been just waiting for the end. The next day, Xiao finds out that Juan's company is hiring someone new, so she goes to interview for the job at Juan's company. However, when Juan learns that Xiao hasn't completed her graduation yet, he decides not to offer her the job. Juan needs an assistant, but he doesn't want to hire someone who hasn't finished their degree. Despite his friend's constant persuasion, Juan refuses to change his mind. Outside the office, Xiao is waiting. When Juan walks out, she tells him, "I haven't graduated yet, but if I get this job, I can pay for my studies and also support my family." Juan replies, "That's not my concern." Without saying much else, Xiao grabs Juan's hand, helps him cross the street, and says, "I might be the only way to get you to your destination." Juan ignores her words and walks away. That night, for some reason, Juan keeps thinking about Xiao, so he decides to give her the job. Xiao is so happy that she throws a dinner party at her house to celebrate getting the job. Meanwhile, Juan's parents call him to say that they'll be returning to the country soon. They want to live with him. However, Juan refuses, which makes his parents upset. The truth is, Juan knows he doesn't have much time left to live, and he didn't want his parents to find out. After the accident, his parents agreed to let doctors put a mechanical heart in his body, and since then, Juan has always felt like he won't live much longer. He wanted his parents to get used to living without him. The next day, when Xiao arrives at the office, everyone is surprised to see her. She was rejected in the interview the day before. Juan tells everyone, "I called her last night and offered her the job." He then goes over the job conditions with Xiao. A little later, when Xiao goes to get some juice, a man starts misbehaving with her. Juan steps in, beats the man up, and makes him apologize to Xiao. After the man apologizes, Juan offers to drive Xiao home. Xiao is impressed by how Juan handled the situation and starts to like him more. When they get home, Xiao writes a note and hands it to Juan. She tells him, "Please open this after I leave." After she leaves, Juan opens the note and finds a flower inside. The next day, one of the company's shareholders offers Juan 2 tickets for an exhibition. He asks, "Would you like to go with me?" Juan replies, "You can give me 1 ticket, and the other one, give it to Xiao." The girl who likes Juan is upset when she hears this because she likes him. She gives the second ticket to Shiao as Juan asked. Then, Shiao gets a call from the hospital saying that her aunt has been admitted. So, she returns the ticket and rushes to the hospital. The girl who likes Juan thinks this is her chance to spend time with him, so she goes to Juan and says, Shiao is very busy and can't go to the exhibition. Right away, Juan calls Shiao, and when he hears the sound of nurses in the background, he realizes that Shiao is at the hospital. After a while, Juan arrives at the hospital, and Shiao is surprised to see him. What is my boss doing here, she thinks. Juan offers to pay for all of her aunt's hospital bills, but Shiao refuses. Juan says, this is a loan from the company. You can pay it back when you get your salary. Reluctantly, Shiao agrees to accept the money. Meanwhile, Xiao's grandmother accidentally started a fire in the kitchen, and the landlord is really angry with them. Because of this, Shiao and her family decide to move into her friend's house. Xiao's friend has feelings for her. On the other hand, Juan gets a new idea for his project, inspired by the flower that Shiao drew. He meets with his doctor and asks, how can I return to a normal life? The doctor, surprised, responds, what's going on? You always talk about dying. Why suddenly want to live normally? Did you fall in love or something? Juan quickly replies, no, nothing like that. The next day, Shiao picks up her boss from the office and asks, why do you always look so serious? You could smile a little, she adds. And by the way, my aunt thanked you for paying the hospital bills. She asked me to ask if you have a girlfriend. If you don't, she said she'll find one for you. Juan laughs and tells Shiao to be quiet. That evening, they both go fishing. Juan catches a fish and gives it to Shiao. The next day, Shiao makes fish soup and brings it to the office for Juan. He really likes the soup. Afterward, they go to close a deal. On the way back, Juan thanks Shiao and says, I got the idea for this project from the flower you drew. Shiao is shocked. In celebration of the new project, everyone at the office gathers for a dinner. One employee offers Juan drinks, but the doctor had warned Juan not to drink. So, Shiao drinks in his place. Afterward, Shiao thanks Juan for giving her the job, and in the moment, she hugs him. After the dinner, Shiao gets a bit drunk and tells Juan, let me drive you home. Juan responds, if you're going to die, die on your own. Why are you dragging me into this? He drops Shiao off at her house. She smells like alcohol, so she doesn't want to go inside because her grandmother will scold her. Once Juan gets home, he calls to check if Shiao made it home safely. Just as Shiao is about to speak, a drunk man nearby starts vomiting. Over the phone, Juan hears this and realizes Shiao hasn't reached home yet. The man begins to harass Shiao, and Juan can hear everything over the phone. Immediately, Juan turns the car around and heads to Xiao's house. As the man tries to get physical with Shiao, Juan arrives and starts beating him up. During the fight, the man tries to hit Juan with a broken bottle, but Shiao gets her hand cut. Seeing this, Juan gets furious, and his heart rate skyrockets. As a result, the man gets thrown far away from the shock, and Juan ends up in bad shape. Shiao rushes him to the hospital. The man, when he regains consciousness, tells the police, Juan is a ghost. As soon as I touched him, I got shocked. But the police don't take the drunk man seriously. Later, after returning home from the hospital, Juan begins to recharge himself. Shiao wouldn't go anywhere without leaving his sick boss, so he sat there and fell asleep. Once Juan finishes recharging, he goes outside and sees Shiao still asleep in the living room. He covers her with a blanket. At that moment, his doctor calls and asks, your heart rate was really high today. What happened? Juan replies, it was just a little trouble. The doctor warns him, you really need to stay away from love. It could cause serious harm. Juan responds, I understand. Please find a way to fix me as soon as possible. The next morning, Shiao goes to the hospital to see her aunt. Soon after, Juan's friend calls her and asks her to bring some cooking supplies. Shiao takes them to Juan's house. Juan's friend always tells Shiao to keep an eye on Juan. A little while later, Juan's parents arrive at his house. When the doorbell rings, Shiao goes to open the door. As she does, Juan tries to stop her, and they both fall down. At that moment, Juan's mother remembers the password to the door and opens it. She is shocked to see the two of them like that. Juan's mother says, what are you two doing in front of the door like this? Juan's parents start thinking that maybe Shiao is going to be their son's future wife. Juan, feeling awkward, quickly tells Shiao to leave. After Shiao leaves, his mom says, that girl is so lucky and talented. I really like her. Juan tries to assure his mom, saying, it's not like that. There's nothing between us. She's just my assistant, not my girlfriend. Juan's dad then says, we'll move in with you soon. Juan gets angry and treats his dad poorly. As a result, Juan's dad gets upset and leaves. The next day, Shiao and Juan get stuck in an elevator at the office. Shiao gets scared, so Juan starts talking to her to calm her down. She then asks him, what's your life goal? Juan answers, to win the Best CEO award. After that, I'll quit this company. Hearing this, Shiao feels sad. Juan comforts her, saying, don't worry, Wherever I go, I'll take you with me. You'll always be my assistant. Shiao feels happy hearing this. Just then, some people come to rescue them. As they climb up, Shiao reaches out her hand to Juan. When Juan holds her hand, he suddenly remembers the accident. He wonders, why does this happen to me whenever Shiao is around? After work, Shiao goes to the hospital since her aunt is being discharged. When her aunt finds out that Shiao has been staying at her friend's house, she gets very angry. For some reason, Xiao's aunt couldn't stand her friend and his family. Xiao tries to explain that she can't go back to their apartment right now and will have to stay with her friend for a while. After some time, her aunt agrees. A little later, Xiao goes to Juan's house. Xiao has an exam coming up, so whenever she doesn't understand something, she asks Juan to explain it to her. One day, while studying, they end up sitting really close to each other. Xiao quickly moves away, and Juan feels embarrassed. The next day, on their way to the office, Juan and Xiao stop by a store to buy something. Juan secretly buys a hair clip. While they're outside, Xiao runs into one of her university friends. Xiao tells Juan, "My friend is really famous at the university. All the girls follow him around." When Juan hears Xiao talking so highly of another guy, he gets unexpectedly angry. It turns out he's feeling jealous of the attention Xiao is giving to someone else. At the office, the female investors assign Xiao a big project to build an art gallery. When Xiao meets with the client refuses to break down a wall in the house. Xiao informs her that her husband has agreed to break the wall. Hearing this, the client gets angry and says, "What have you told my husband that made him agree? I won't give you this job now." The client kicks Xiao out of the house. When Xiao tells the female investors at the office, they get really mad. During a meeting, the female investors tell Juan, "According to company rules, you have to fire your assistant now because she caused a lot of losses for the company." Juan asks Xiao, "Did you argue with the client?" Xiao, feeling upset, answers yes by mistake. Juan gets angry and storms off. Juan's friend, who's also an investor in the company, tells Xiao that she has one day to fix things. The next day, Xiao goes to meet the client again, but when the client sees her, she locks the door. Xiao feels down, standing outside. Just then, Juan arrives. He tells her, "You can't always impress people with sweet words. You're an artist, and you need to win people's hearts through your art." So, Xiao goes to meet the client's husband. The man explains, "Actually, my 5-year-old son drew on that wall. He passed away in a drowning accident, so my wife doesn't want to tear it down." Xiao understands the pain of the wife. She also shares a story about her own childhood accident, which the client's wife overhears. The next day at the office, Juan announces that they got the art gallery project again, and the client wants Xiao to handle the work. Xiao gets anxious, trying to figure out how to design it without breaking the wall. Juan then gives her a decorative piece as a gift, and looking at it, Xiao gets an idea. She tells Juan, "We'll cover the wall with glass like a showpiece. That way, the art gallery can be built, and we won't have to break the wall." The next day, they go to tell the clients, and they are pleased with the idea. Xiao thanks Juan because he's always trusted her. Juan, deep down, thinks that from now on, he'll stop thinking about dying and will enjoy the time he has left. When Xiao is taking a selfie, Juan jumps into the frame. After the success of another company project, Juan announces that he'll take everyone on a trip. The whole office is excited. Later, he texts Xiao, saying, "You won't go with the rest of the employees. You and I will go separately." The next day, they arrive at the picnic spot, which is beautiful. At dinner time, Juan secretly goes to Xiao's room and says, "I saw you brought some food from home. Can I have some? I can't eat the food they made." Xiao gives him some of her food. The next day, everyone is scattered around enjoying the trip. Juan takes Xiao to a skating resort, which their company designed. Inside, Xiao keeps taking pictures. She asks Juan to take some pictures of her too. All the other bosses just scowl, so Xiao happily takes advantage of having such a good boss. While taking a selfie, Xiao slips and falls, and when Juan rushes to save her, he also falls. They both land very close to each other. After getting up, they head out, and the receptionist tells them they can take some free dolls from the store. Juan picks up a crow doll and says, "Look, this one looks just like you." Xiao picks up a lizard doll and says, "This one looks just like you, boss." The dolls have voice recording features, and they sit in their room, recording their voices into the dolls. That night, everyone parties, and the employees convince Xiao to sing. But her singing is so bad that it sounds more like the crow's voice than anything else. When Juan hears this, he joins in and starts singing along with her. They both have a lot of fun, and after the party, they exchange the dolls. They sit in their room listening to their voice recordings. After the trip ends, they return to the office together, and everyone is surprised. "What happened? We've never seen the boss so refreshed." They start wondering if something is going on between them. At lunch, Xiao goes out with her friend, and Juan texts her, "Next time, make sure you ask for my permission before you go somewhere." Xiao runs to the office, thinking that Juan is really angry with her. When she arrives, she sees that Juan has already left. The next day, Shiao goes to the art gallery construction site and realizes her phone is off. She uses Juan's phone to take some pictures. Back at the office, Juan and the female investor plan to go somewhere. When they get into the car, the female investor gets upset when she sees Shiao sitting next to Juan. When they arrive at the site, a girl takes Xiao's picture and tells her, "You really seem to like this place. I'll send you these pictures later." The next day, Shiao goes to the hot tub, and there she meets the girl who had taken her picture the day before. The girl's name is Wen. Shiao and Wen talk for a long time, and during their chat, Shiao can't help but praise her boss a lot. Wen laughs and says, "I'm sure you really like your boss." Hearing this, Shiao feels embarrassed but quickly denies it, saying, "Oh no, it's not like that." Meanwhile, female investor Lee calls Juan into her room under the excuse of work, but starts to seduce her. Lee says, "You've changed a lot since Shiao came." Juan agrees and says, "Yeah, I guess that's true. She's the complete opposite of me. She just goes along with everything with a smile, and I really like that about her." Hearing this, Lee feels a rush of jealousy. When Shiao sees Juan leave Lee's room, she feels bad. She sits down and wonders, if her boss went to Lee's room to talk about work, then why was Lee wearing a nightdress? Feeling down, Shiao goes to the balcony, and Juan says, "Trust me, I was only there to talk about work. Nothing happened between us." Hearing this, Shiao feels much better and thinks to herself, "I'm really stupid. Why was I overthinking about my boss?" Later, Shiao finishes work and heads to her friend's place. There, she finds out her friend just went through a breakup. Her friend advises her, "Stay away from your boss. Maybe your heart will break just like mine did." Shiao takes her friend's words seriously. The next day at work, Shiao starts avoiding her boss, thinking she can't let herself get weak for him. While lost in these thoughts, she almost has an accident, but one scolds her for not paying attention. Meanwhile, Wen sends Shiao the pictures from the other day. In return, Shiao offers to help with one of her projects. She goes to Wen and says, "I'm going to strike a deal with Wen. You should come too." Wen asks Lee to join, knowing she'd handle these things well. With Lee by her side, Shiao goes to meet Wen. Lee tells Wen to come to the office the next day to finalize the deal. The next day, when Wen enters the office and sees Juan, she's a bit shocked. She asks, "Is this your office?" Actually, Wen is Juan's ex-girlfriend. After Juan had his accident, Wen used to visit him every day, waiting for him to get better. Juan's mother once told her, "You're too young for this. My son is about to die. Don't wait for him. Live your own life." Wen had sent many messages to Juan, asking to meet just once, but Juan never replied. He didn't want her to wait for him. Eventually, Wen went abroad to continue her studies. Now, Wen is married. She asks Juan, "So, how have you been?" Juan replies, "I'm just barely surviving." Everything they say, Lee listens to secretly. After leaving the office, Wen tells Shiao, "Never back down. You've chosen the right person." Then, Wen meets with Lee and tells her, "Let go of your false hope. Juan will never care about someone like you." Hearing this, Lee gets extremely angry. On the way home that night, Juan notices that Shiao seems really nervous. Juan asks, "Are you okay?" Just as Shiao is about to gather the courage to tell her what's on her mind, Lee calls and says, "What do you think? Do you really believe Juan is such a good person? She's just using you to get close to her. Why are you so foolish? Do you think Juan will choose you over Wen?" Hearing this, Xiao's heart breaks. She quickly makes an excuse and leaves without saying anything else. The next day, the office team goes to an employee's birthday party. At the party, Shiao drinks a lot. When an employee asks her about her first love, Shiao says, "My love ended before it even started." As they cut the cake, Shiao becomes anxious, remembering her accident. It happened on her birthday, so she decides to leave the party early. The next day, Shiao apologizes to her boss for leaving the party without saying anything. Wen notices, Shiao seems down and asks, "Why do you always look so sad? You don't laugh like you used to, and you don't talk freely anymore, and you don't even bring food for me like you used to." Shiao replies, "I'm your assistant. It's not my job to feed you." Ignoring this, Juan says, "I'm going to meet with my master outside the city today. You're coming with me." When they reach the airport, Shiao asks, "Why are you bringing me along? You have so many employees. I'm just a useless person with no real work at the office. You only brought me so I wouldn't feel left out, right?" Juan, upset, scolds her. "What are you saying? You used to always think positively. Why are you being so negative now? I'm bringing you so you can learn something from my master." When they arrive, Shiao feels like the place is familiar. Juan's master is a kind-hearted person, and he's really happy to see both of them. Inside, Shiao spots pictures of her father and her childhood. The master asks, "Is this you as a child?" When Shiao confirms, the master says, "Your father was one of my students. One day, you'll be just like him, a great designer." Hearing this makes Shiao feel better, and she treats Juan to some ice cream. While talking, Juan says, "When was my ex-girlfriend? but our story ended a long time ago. Xiao feels relieved and thinks to herself, finally, all my doubts are gone. On the way, they see a cat, and Xiao asks, please, adopt it. I'll visit your house every day to see the cat. Later, we see the cat at Juan's house. However, Juan doesn't like the cat at all. She only adopted it for Xiao. One day after work, Xiao goes to visit the cat. While playing with it, an employee calls Juan to tell her, you've won the Best CEO award. But hearing this doesn't make Juan happy at all. She feels like she's already accomplished the last goal in her life. Now, she has no reason to keep going. The next day, she visits a cemetery to talk about buying a plot for her future grave. But this time, Juan says, I'm fine with the current design of the grave. The person at the cemetery is shocked and asks, what happened? Why have you suddenly changed so much? When Juan arrives at the office, all the employees congratulate her, but she ignores them and goes straight to her cabin. Her friend asks, so, what are you going to do now? Juan replies, I think I'll resign and wait to die. Her friend responds, come on, that's not how life works. You have to change your plans with life. You have your parents, you have me, and now Xiao is also here. Why are you in such a rush to leave all of us? The next day, Juan is getting ready for an event. As she gets ready, Xiao can't take her eyes off her boss. On the way to the event, Xiao asks, what's going on, boss? You've achieved such a huge dream in your life, yet you're not happy. Why is that? Juan replies, that's the problem. I've checked off every wish in my life. Now I have no more goals left. Xiao says, I can give you 1,000 more goals in life. But Juan ignores her and says, I'll think about what you said. At the event, when it's time to give the award, the host asks, so, what's your next goal in life? Juan looks at Xiao and says, I'm just waiting for someone's advice. Xiao feels a bit embarrassed because she knows Juan is talking about her. The next day, Wen calls Xiao to meet her. When Xiao arrives, Wen says, there was a time when Juan and I had a relationship, but there's nothing between us now, and there won't be anything in the future, so you can relax. Then they head to the project site. While they're talking, Wen's husband calls to say his car broke down. Wen tells Xiao, I have to leave for something urgent. You can go once you're done here. Xiao says, okay, no problem. Wen leaves, leaving the door open. But when Xiao finishes her work and is about to leave, she finds the door locked. It's night now, and Xiao gets really scared, so she calls Juan to explain what happened. Juan rushes to the building and asks the guards for help. They take her to the 44th floor, but the elevator breaks down. So, Juan takes a rickshaw and somehow reaches the rooftop, but the door is locked. She has to break the door to get inside. The effort causes her heart rate to spike, and the lights in the building go out. Xiao, shocked, faints. Juan rushes her to the hospital. The next day, when Xiao wakes up, her boss takes good care of her, and she feels happy. Xiao asks, do you have some kind of superpower? Every time you touch someone, they get shocked. That guy on the road had a shock, and I had one too yesterday. Juan avoids the topic and leaves the room. Later, Xiao's friend visits her and says, I think Juan likes you too. Otherwise, why would she risk her life to save you? Juan overhears this from behind and listens quietly. Xiao's friend leaves them alone, and they both stay there in silence. A few days later, Xiao is discharged from the hospital. On their way home, Xiao's friend sends her a picture of a man and says, this guy attacked me. Juan looks at the picture in surprise. It's the same man who hit Xiao's car in the past. When she gets home, she asks her lawyer to investigate this man. The man had gone to jail after causing the accident, and he died in prison several years ago. So how could he now attack her friend? The lawyer investigates and finds that the man had a twin brother who was actually the one who caused the accident. Juan decides to keep an eye on this man for her friend's safety. Wen meets with Xiao again and gives her an album, saying, in the past, Juan had a huge passion for photography. Since you're going to be someone close to her soon, this album now belongs to you. Xiao is really happy and accepts the album. Wen tells her, I'm going to Australia for a while. During that time, you'll have to handle this project by yourself. Don't worry, I'll be back soon. Later, Xiao and Juan go to lunch together at a restaurant. While there, Xiao sees someone celebrating their birthday, and it brings back memories of her own accident. Juan asks, your birthday's coming up soon, right? I checked the date on your ID card, but Xiao doesn't respond. The next day, Xiao's aunt calls and tells her that her grandmother is missing. So, Xiao and Juan set out to search for her. After a long search, they finally find Xiao's grandmother near the graves of her parents. The grandmother has memory loss and mistakes Juan for her son, saying, you've come. Xiao feels embarrassed because now her crush, Juan, is being called her father by her grandmother. A little later, Xiao's aunt arrives with a cake. It turns out that today is Xiao's birthday. After much persuasion from everyone, Xiao finally agrees to celebrate her birthday for the first time in 10 years. As everyone is wishing her, Xiao keeps thinking about the accident that happened that day. A little while later, Xiao goes to the side and tells Juan everything. After hearing it, Juan is surprised and thinks to herself, wait, this is the girl I saved that day. As Juan is about to leave, Shiao hugs her from behind and says, thank you so much. Because of you, I was able to celebrate my birthday after 10 years. When Shiao hugs her, Juan's heart rate increases and she quickly steps away, flustered. Meanwhile, Juan's doctor has been trying to find a way to heal her for a long time. Finally, the doctor calls Juan and says, I've found a formula that will heal you. If you wait just 3 months, you'll be completely healed and you won't need to charge yourself up anymore. There won't be any more electricity running through your body. Juan is overjoyed to hear this. Later, Juan tells her friend about the accident and reveals that Shiao was the girl involved in the car crash. The friend is surprised and says, wow, what a small world. Here's something interesting to note. Juan's father, her friend's father, and Xiao's father used to run a business together, but one of them had taken all the money and betrayed the other two. However, the blame fell on Xiao's father. Juan shares this with her friend as well as the news that she's going to be fully healed soon. The next day, Li is looking for a way to insult Shiao at the office. She finds out that Shiao is the daughter of the criminal who ran away with a huge sum of money from a big company 12 years ago. Li spreads this news to all the employees, and soon they're gossiping about Shiao. Hearing this, Shiao stands up and says, you better apologize to me right now. How dare you say such things about my father? My father was not a bad person. But instead of apologizing, the employees start a fight with Shiao. Juan steps in after hearing what happened and scolds the employees, saying, there has never been any personal matter in this office until now. Why is it happening today? You will all apologize to Shiao immediately. Reluctantly, the employees apologize and leave. The next day, Shiao asks Juan for some time off to attend a special class. Juan says, I'll give you time off, but on one condition, register my name for that class too. The next scene shows Juan enrolled in Xiao's class. Whenever Xiao's friend writes something on paper, Juan takes it and throws it in the trash. Shiao is shocked and wonders why Juan is acting this way. Juan wouldn't even let her look at her friend. The teacher notices this and, to address it, asks both Xiao's friend and Juan to stand up and answer a question. Since Xiao's friend couldn't answer, he is kicked out of class. He has no idea why Juan is treating him like this. The next day, when Juan comes to class again, Shiao stops her, saying, the teacher asked you not to come. You've already graduated, so you don't belong here anymore. Juan doesn't go to class, but after it ends, she comes to pick up Shiao. She takes her to a beautiful place, and, with a wonderful project, Juan proposes to Shiao. Everything feels like a dream to Shiao. Juan says, but remember one thing. To be with me, you'll have to wait 3 more months. When Shiao asks why, Juan doesn't answer. The next day, while they're having lunch, Juan bumps into a man outside the restaurant. Juan's watch falls off, and she suddenly becomes ill. She rushes home to lie down on her charging machine. It turns out that her mechanical heart had run out of charge. After finding the watch, Shiao goes to Juan's house. She finds Juan lying in the machine, and this is when Juan finally tells Shiao the truth about her mechanical heart and the accident that happened 10 years ago. Shiao becomes emotional and says, so, it was you that day? I've been searching for you everywhere just to thank you. She hugs Juan, and when they kiss, Juan's heartbeat increases, causing Shiao to get shocked. Shiao realizes that if she's going to be with Juan, she'll have to get used to this. One day, Juan takes Shiao to another place and shows her something, saying, your father made this. His name is engraved here. Juan continues, our company has started working on an unfinished project from your father. If you want, you can participate, and your name will be on it along with your father's. Shiao is overjoyed. Just then, the guards show up, and they both run away. When Juan drops Shiao at home, Xiao's aunt notices them and realizes that these two are definitely in love. The next day, Xiao's aunt goes out to lunch with Juan. She asks him about his family, and Juan answers, my parents live abroad. I live here alone. He casually tells her that he has a serious illness. This completely changes Xiao's aunt's expression, and she makes an excuse to leave the restaurant. Back home, she tells Shiao, you need to break up with your boss. Shiao is confused, wondering, why is she saying this? What Shiao doesn't know is that her aunt is worried that if something happens to Juan, Shiao will be left alone again. The next day, Shiao asks Juan, why did you tell my aunt about your heart condition? Juan replies, no, I just told her I have an illness. Hearing this, Xiao's aunt leaves angrily. Shiao takes Juan to her old house and says, I want to save money and repair this house. Then, I'll come live here with my aunt and grandma. Juan says, I'll help you with that. Later, they both have dinner with Juan's parents, and Juan tells them about their relationship. His parents are really happy because they had liked Shiao even before. After the dinner, they drop Juan's parents at the airport. For the first time, Juan smiles while saying goodbye to them. Meanwhile, Xiao's friend meets with Li and tells her, you need to get all the details about the project Juan's company is working on. Then, you'll leak the information and blame Shiao for it. After that, Juan will break up with Shiao, and he'll propose to you. You'll end up with him. Lee agrees to this plan. While everyone at the office is working, Juan asks Shiao to go outside and bring something. It's raining outside, and Shiao feels hesitant to go. Lee notices and says, "What's going on with her?" Juan responds, "She's afraid of going outside in the rain ever since a certain incident." Lee carelessly says, "Yeah, I guess anyone would be scared if they got stuck on the roof of a tall building in the rain." Juan is surprised and wonders, how does she know about that? Meanwhile, their next project presentation is ready. Lee, secretly, copies it and gives it to Xiao's friend. Xiao's friend comes to the company and orders the employees to make a copy of Juan's project. The event day arrives, and various companies present their projects. When Juan sees the project on screen, she's shocked and wonders, how did this leak? The team is worried about what to do next. But to everyone's surprise, Juan presents a different project. This project is a backup that Shiao and Juan had prepared in case something like this happened. The investors like it. Afterward, Xiao's friend angrily confronts Lee, saying, "Why did you trick me like this?" Lee responds, "No, the project you got from me was the real one, but I still don't understand how Juan came up with a new one." At home, Shiao wonders, who could have leaked our project? Juan replies, "It was Lee." Shiao asks, "Why would Lee do that?" Juan answers, "It's not just that. Lee was the one who locked you on the roof that day. Do you know how scared you were? Even after all this, Shiao, you didn't file a complaint." Realizing that Lee might be doing this out of love for Juan, Shiao leaves, and Juan invites Lee to her house. When Lee arrives, Juan says, "Why would you leak such an important project? You also locked Shiao on the roof that day. Do you realize how terrified she was? Even after all this, she never complained about you." Lee feels ashamed and apologizes. Juan says, "If you had apologized earlier, maybe I would have forgiven you. But now, you're not worthy of forgiveness. You're not welcome in my company anymore, and you'll never be in front of me again." That night, Juan can't stop thinking about Shiao. Suddenly, she feels pain in her chest and calls her doctor, but the doctor doesn't answer. The next night, Shiao and Juan visit the construction site of the art gallery project. It's almost finished, and Shiao is thrilled because this is her first project. Later, when they return home, Juan's friend and Xiao's friend arrive. They reveal that they got married today, and everyone is shocked. A few days later, Juan's health worsens. She suddenly feels pain in her chest, and one day, while sitting at the office, the electricity goes out because of the current in her body. One day, Juan takes Shiao on a date. While on the date, they save a child from a runaway stroller, but Juan gets into an accident. Shiao quickly takes her to the hospital. Juan's friend arrives at the hospital, and the doctor says, "We're treating her for now, but since she has a mechanical heart, we should take her to her personal doctor." Juan's friend says, "I've been calling the doctor for days, but he's not answering." The friend then goes to the doctor's office, only to find out from the assistant that the doctor passed away recently. Hearing this, Juan's friend asks, "What will happen to Juan now?" The assistant replies, "There's nothing I can do." The doctor had told Juan to live like this for the rest of her life. Since her condition is worsening, there's a chance her heart could stop, and he might die at any moment. Juan's friend tells her everything, and Juan responds, "When I wanted to die, God didn't listen to me. But now that I want to live, he didn't give me that chance either." Juan decides she will become angry again, just like before, and break up with Shiao. She doesn't want Shiao to suffer more if she dies suddenly. From that moment on, Juan starts treating Shiao badly. Shiao doesn't understand why Juan is acting like this for no reason. One day, outside the office, Shiao waits for Juan. But when Juan sees her waiting, she doesn't come out. The next day, even though she was told not to, Shiao comes to pick Juan up, which annoys Juan. Unable to take it anymore, Shiao confronts Juan at the office, saying, "What's wrong with you? Why are you treating me like this? Can't you at least be a little kind?" Juan replies, "All right, I'll be nice to you from now on." Later, Shiao comes to Juan's house to study. Suddenly, their cat becomes sick. They rush the cat to the hospital. Shiao visits the cat often. One day, she calls Juan and says, "The cat's condition is getting worse." Juan replies, "What's going to happen will happen, so stop making a fuss." Hearing this, Shiao feels hurt. When Juan's friend learns that Juan has already made arrangements for her own funeral, he scolds her, but Juan doesn't care. One day, at the hospital, the doctor suggests they put the cat to sleep with an injection so it won't suffer, but Shiao refuses. Later, as Shiao falls asleep in the hospital, she wakes up to find a no-objection paper by her side, realizing Juan gave permission to euthanize the cat. This breaks Xiao's heart. While standing at the cat's grave, Juan tells Shiao, "You should resign from the company." Shiao gets angry and says, "This is what you wanted, right? To play with my heart for a while and then throw me away." Juan doesn't answer. Juan's friend tells Juan, "Shiao is a really good girl. You shouldn't treat her this way for no reason. Juan gives his friend the responsibility for the company and asks him to get Xiao's signature on some documents. Juan wants to leave a portion of his property to Xiao. The next day, when Xiao comes to pick Juan up, she finds out that Juan has gone on a trip. Xiao feels even worse. Meanwhile, Juan's only goal now is to fix Xiao's old house before she dies. One day, while working on it, Juan falls ill. His friend and wife come to visit him. Juan asks, "Why are you telling your wife?" The friend says, "How much longer could I keep hiding your illness? Don't worry, she won't tell anyone." On the other hand, Xiao is worried about Juan because he isn't answering her calls, and she doesn't know where he is. She calls her friend and asks, "Can you ask your husband where Juan is?" Her friend already knows and gives Xiao Juan's address. When Xiao arrives, Juan is surprised to see her. Xiao says, "I don't care how much time you have left. No matter how long you live, I want to spend that time with you." Juan agrees, and from that moment on, Xiao stays by Juan's side, doing all the household chores. One day, when Juan becomes sick, Xiao manages to get him to the charging room. However, Juan's heart isn't charging. Xiao gets really scared, but when the mode activates, Juan regains consciousness. He realizes that his time is running out. The doctor had told him that once the mode activates, he has only 1 year to live, but Juan doesn't tell Xiao about this. One day, Xiao goes to speak with Juan's doctor's assistant. From the assistant, Xiao learns that Juan's save mode has been activated and he only has 1 year left to live. Hearing this, Xiao breaks down in tears. She doesn't have the courage to lose Juan. The next day, during their date, Xiao tells Juan, "I know about your save mode." Juan, although surprised, says nothing. While they are at the art gallery construction site, a pipe falls on Xiao's head and she is rushed to the hospital. Because Juan's save mode was on, he was in a lot of pain. He calls the assistant and asks to activate normal mode. The assistant informs him that if he switches to normal mode, he will only have 1 month to live. Juan replies, "That's fine. In this last month, I want to live happily with Xiao and my family." The assistant visits Juan's house and tells him the rules to activate normal mode. Juan agrees to them, and the assistant activates it. Several days later, Juan takes Xiao and her family to their old house. Juan has renovated it, and everyone is happy to see the changes. Xiao's friend's father calls her over, and when she meets him, he reveals, "I had invested in the company your father used to run. The one who betrayed everyone wasn't your father, it was Mr. C. Mr. C is Juan's friend's father. He's the one who framed your father and sent him to prison." The man gives Xiao all the proof. When she returns home, Xiao gives the documents to Juan. When Juan's friend learns about his father's wrongdoing, he reports him to the police. Meanwhile, for revenge, Mr. C's assistant kidnaps Xiao and demands Juan bring all the evidence. Juan arrives with the proof, but they don't trust him and refuse to release Xiao. Juan becomes furious, and his heartbeat increases, causing the current in his body to knock everyone unconscious. Juan's condition worsens, and he falls into a coma. At this point, Juan's parents arrive, and everyone finds out that his normal mode had been activated. One day, Xiao sees a news story on television about researchers launching a project that will allow people to live with mechanical organs like normal humans. Xiao gets the idea to save Juan. 3 years later, Juan is fully healthy, and both he and Xiao are living happily together. Juan's doctor's assistant had formed a team to cure him. Afterward, Xiao and Juan get married and start their happy life together. With this beautiful moment, today's drama comes to an end. Don't forget to let me know how you liked the drama, and if you enjoy my stories, make sure to like and comment to stay with me. Now I'm leaving, but I'll see you soon with a new drama story. Until then, take care of yourselves.